I only saw Michael one time personally until the last day where when he comes to Oregon and we was from. So all my other work was the peripheral work with the agents and, people from Nike at that time, Rob Strauss or myself, laying the ground where I could make Phil Knight comfortable with the last meeting we had. All of this went into that 3-month period. Um, and never until the end was I assured, and obviously what the most important thing is Nike.
So tell us about your emotions at this time then. How much was self-doubt or fear playing a role? Because this was such a big deal for Nike.
Well, well, to me, it was lose my job or have another one. And Camp and I had just got married about 3 months before that. So it would have been a good start to our marriage financially. But it was the most important deal that Nike ever made, to be very honest with you. And obviously, for the life of Sonny Vaccaro, I had done other things to get me to that point in that world, the sports world, the basketball world. I was doing, another job for Nike at that time, but it wasn't searching for the next icon. Uh, so it was everything. I don't think there was a bigger bet made in marketing in my lifetime, and I don't think there ever will be. The monies are different now, but the money spent at that time was astronomical and never given to anybody like that before. So it was something that deserves to be in the iconic phrase of "this was it." There's not a better one.
And did you have any idea as this was unfolding that you were involved in something that we would still be talking about 30, 40, 50, 100 years later?
I had an idea that he was special when none of this meant anything. When I went to that basketball game when he played against Georgetown and was playing North Carolina. The day of that game when I saw Michael for the first and only time in my life, I was rooting for Georgetown because they were one of our teams and I was close to John and I knew all the players. I never saw Michael Jordan in my life before that particular game. And I didn't give a damn about North Carolina because they weren't wearing Nike shoes. So the time went on. There were 3 years where I never again thought of him other than he was really good and he got his team to a Final Four, and that day that they won that I watched, but he was special. He played, it was picked All-American. So what I'm saying to you is it was the most improbable thing that ever could happen to a human being, that I only saw him, that paid attention to about 18 seconds in my life, but that 18 seconds somehow remained in my psyche and my brain, whatever you want to call it, in the supernatural, and this mystical. But then one day they asked me a question, and then the question just came out of my mouth. I went to the meeting where they were looking for a player or players to put their shoes on to pay them. I was never invited to that kind of a meeting. My inviting was to pick the college players, get the high school kids, do like camps, all that. I was never involved in a pro thing until the Jordan, question came up. So to answer the question for your audience, there can't be a more interesting signing and significant one with so much, little things brought into it. 17 seconds. That's all I remembered him. And it's 2.5 years later. And I say, give it all to the kid. And I bet my job on it. But there's nothing like that in marketing ever was done then, and it's certainly not going to be done now.
So which room, Sonny, because this show is the room where it happened, which room do you think is most important in this conversation? Is it the room where you watched MJ play basketball for less than 20 seconds? Is it the room where they brought you in and asked you your opinion on who to sign? Or is it the room where you sat down and finally had the opportunity to convince Michael to join Nike?
Jake, I'd like to answer that in 2 questions, okay? The room was the Superdome. When I watched the game live, when I saw him pass by me and make a shot, it wasn't on that tape that I watched later. That was nothing to do with it. The mental part of it was that 17 seconds. So you can say this is the biggest room that your audience is ever going to listen about that changed life. It was a stadium with a court with 50,000 people in it. And I made a decision to change the world unknowingly. Now we get to where you want to go. Now it's time for Nike to find someone to save the company, a superstar.